city. And between building nations, science lies. Science in India has never been silent. It has been working behind laboratories, behind equations, behind experiments that shaped Bharat Viksit Kal. And at the core of this ecosystem stands, guided by the vision of Honorable Prime Minister
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Shubhodaya. Welcome to the second day of RISE Conclave 2026. To open this day, we are going to start with a panel discussion on the theme of data science and artificial intelligence, titled AI for Everyone, Navigating Technology, Society, and Ethics. In a world where artificial intelligence is no longer a distant possibility, but a daily reality shaping how we work, think, and live, this conversation could not be a timelier. To explore this theme, we are privileged to have with us an exceptional panel of thought leaders, academicians, scientists, industry pioneers who bring together rare and diverse perspectives on technology, research, and innovation. I now invite our distinguished panelists, along with our moderator for the session, to join us on a stage. As I call out each name, I request a warm round of applause to welcome them. Dr. Gopal Krishna Patra, Director CSIR 4th Paradigm Institute, Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya, Department of Computational and Data Sciences, Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, Dr. Shesha Raghunathan, Strategy Lead, IBM Quantum IBM India, Mr. Akash Paul, a Senior Solution Architect, NVDI, Ms. Navya Iyengar, Founder and Partner, LNN Ivara Advisors, and steering this rich conversation as our moderator for the session, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Srinivas Bhogle, Honorary Scientist, CSIR 4PI. A warm welcome once again to each one of us esteemed panelists and to our moderator. We are truly honored to have such wealth of expertise gathered on a single stage today. With that, I now hand over the proceedings to Dr. Srinivas Bhogle, who will take this conversation forward. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Yeah, now I can be heard. So, welcome to this panel discussion. We are starting 15 minutes late, but that's perfectly okay. We presume that we have enough time at the end to go ahead. So what I'm going to do is, let me first of all introduce myself, because I'm soon going to invite all my other colleagues to introduce themselves too. So my name is Srinivas Bhogle. I'm an old CSR person. I worked at NAL for over 20 years. And after retirement, which was also quite a long time ago, I go and teach. So I teach probability and statistics for MSc courses. I've enjoyed my stay at NAL. I still am the honorary scientist at CSR for PI. So, just to share a couple of my thoughts about, why are we meeting now? Why aren't we meeting, say, 3 years ago? I don't think we'd have met 3 years ago. And how are we meeting now? So let me be very honest. All of us, I'm sure, have been working and preparing for this panel. But the way almost the entire work that I did for this panel was using AI. So 3 years ago, there would probably have not been this panel, or certainly not enough AI. So AI is a bit of a mystical word. Everyone has their own interpretation. Everyone is in some kind of awe about AI. They think it's going to change the world. People worry that it doesn't change the world the wrong way. So what is AI? Suppose I had to summarize. And once again, these summaries are based on interactions with LLMs. So I would say that AI helps us find, explain, accomplish, and explore. So discovery. We all, in the past, we would look at Google and we would sort of find our way now. And now try asking Google. In fact, if you even try asking Google, just next to that, you see the OpenAI. And you see immediately that the quality of the answers is so much better, so much more enjoyable. And there's an effort to keep the engagement going. So it's really discovery. So one of the great facets of AI is that it's discovery, and we don't just discover new words or, given n-1 words, what the nth word is going to be like. Much more than that, we discover patterns, we discover relationships. So it's really very exciting. The other facet of AI I would just like to mention is communication. Now, we've been communicating all along, but I think the way we are communicating is changing dramatically, and I do expect it to change even more. In fact, I'm glad Akash is here, because he's been talking about voice over AI and things like that. So, but how do we communicate? See, I'm a teacher. So let's say 5 years ago, when I asked people to make a presentation or, it was a struggle for them. Whereas on the other hand, now, even before you've outlined what you want, and within an hour or two, some of the kids are ready with their presentations. And to be very honest, the presentations are very good. So this is AI in action. I'm sitting next to a CSR director, and I once overheard him chatting to another CSR director, that is Abhay Pashilkar, the NAL director. In the past, one of the challenges, even for CSR directors, was that if you want to make a project proposal, that proposal has to be long enough, deep enough, vivid enough, and it should sort of make the sponsor think that you're spending good money on something. Nowadays, we don't care about the length of the report, right? So we ask, do you want a report in 200 words, 300 words, 500 words, 10 pages, maybe 100 pages, and we have it. So it is changing, and not just communication this way, the way we chat. It's a whole new thing, and it's very exciting. I was tempted to say that AI is also automation, but again, ChatGPT said, you're not being fair to me by just saying that I'm an automator or automating. It's actually amplification. You can dig further, you can dig deeper, you can think beyond. So many of the things that didn't seem feasible now have suddenly become feasible. And finally, AI is also about imagination. What might be possible? I see a lot of ISRO talk, on the video here. So I would really like to imagine, and it's a very fair kind of question. How would ISRO have been like without Satish Dhawan at the head at the critical time? Or how would our missile program have been like if Kalam didn't come out of space and go to defense? So exciting things. So that's what AI is all about. And I look forward to this discussion. I do not want to hog it. But all our panelists are, I'm sure, capable of answering all kinds of questions. But generally, my focus would be, and this is Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya would be, what is AI? Akash, I would ask you about how is it built, in some sense. Navya, do we trust AI? That would be the focus. And Shesha would be on what comes after AI, maybe. And Patra about what would AI mean for science. So I think I've talked enough. So may I now invite our panelists to sort of quickly introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Professor. Oh, mic works, I know.
Good morning to all of you. Good morning to distinguished panelists. And many thanks for inviting me to be part of this panel. So my name is Chiranjeev. I'm a faculty member in the computer science department at ISC. So all my life I've been a researcher, an academic researcher as that. So when I was doing my PhD at those point, if somebody said you're doing research on AI or machine learning, and people would have laughed at me. It's like, what are you talking about? That was then. Now it is great to be in a place and feel everybody's talking about it. So my research primarily has been over a couple of decades was on to contributing to algorithms which go into developing these tools. However, now in the last 3-4 years, I'm just stunned by the new development. And at this point, I'm slowly moving, my research themes is impact of AI on society. And for that, some of the research themes are on machine learning or sustainable AI and all that. And maybe if I get a chance as part of the panel, I can speak more. But with that, I would request other colleagues to introduce themselves.
Please check it.
Yeah. Hi all, good morning. Thanks for the invitations. Yes, I appreciate it. And a lot of exciting developments in the ecosystem, and RISE Conclave seems to be looking or framed in the right way of bringing research, industry, entrepreneurship, and of course startups to come together. And it's the right framework for especially technologies or topic at hand today. I'm Shesha Raghunathan. I'm a part of IBM. I'm the strategy lead for the quantum business for IBM in India. As part of that, I'm responsible for the supply side, which is deploying the machines. Some of you may have heard about our deployment in Amravati. I'm responsible for that. And on the demand side, how to use those machines effectively. So working with various stakeholders, like research labs of CISIR, our academia like Professor Bhattacharya, or indeed startups and other ecosystem players who will have a way or will have some sort of an intersection with the technology. So my role is to engage with them to help in accelerating the process of leveraging these machines for certain developments or algorithmic developments. Thank you.
Navya, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, and good morning to the panelists. Thank you for this lovely invite. I'm truly honored to be here. I would start this with an honest confession. 18 years ago, when I walked into a global conglomerate like Citibank as a young professional, there was so much of risk involved, which I noticed in terms of technology. After 18 years and moving across various global organizations, I realized that I'd not even scratched the surface. And the risk was shape-shifting over a period of time. This shape-shifting risk, today we call it as artificial intelligence, AI. Tomorrow it will have a new term, and the term keeps changing. So, okay, I'm Navya Iyengar, and I have my own startup, Ellen and Evara Advisors, based out of Bengaluru. What we basically do is, we saw everybody selling AI, most of them deploying AI, but there was barely anyone who was talking about the security of AI, the governance and risk management of AI. What would be the repercussions of losing money when it comes to anything going haywire with respect to AI? Because everybody in the boardroom was busy discussing the ROI, What is the ROI we'll get when we deploy such and such application which is based on AI? But nobody spoke about, or barely 5 to 10% people spoke about the risks involved around it. So what we are doing with our organization is that we are partnering with various international organizations, government bodies, and we are trying to incorporate governance before AI is being deployed so that we at least mitigate risk to maximum level. We can't say we can completely outdo, but we are trying to do that. So today, after a year and a half after inception, we are spread out across 7 global regions. We cater to 13 plus standards, industry standards that are available. And that's how we help the organizations function. Thank you.
Thank you. Akash, please.
Thank you. I'm pretty glad to see everyone here in the morning, especially on a Sunday, and extremely glad to be on this panel as well with such esteemed folks. So I'll give an intro about myself. So I'm Akash Paul. I'm a senior solutions architect at NVIDIA. And I think one of my jobs is easier to not introduce the company because most of you might know about it. But one of my primary roles here is to help companies, startups, other industries, as well as research institutes as well to pretty much increase or better their GPU utilization, figure out what part of the stack they're not using and might help them out as well. And I come from a background from, let's say, I started off with a startup which was into gaming. Then I moved to a bank, which was Axis Bank, then to Airtel, and now at NVIDIA. So I have seen a lot of the industry as well and some bits of the startup world. So yeah, glad to be on this panel today.
Thank you. What I really find, yeah, please. Yeah. No, okay, let me just react. What I really find, what pleases me a lot is that 2 of you actually started with startups. I do actually believe that the future of our country is very strongly dependent on the more startups we have. We need more entrepreneurs, and we need more sort of capable and dedicated entrepreneurs. So it's a delight to have you both here. And now let's ask Dr. Patra to introduce himself.
Good morning, and as the host organization, I would like to welcome all the panelists here and also the people who have come over here to participate early in the morning on a Sunday. So thank you very much for all of you to coming here. And as he was telling that he used AI, so I think the whole approach is for AI, by AI, and of AI. So that's what I think the current approach is. And I started my research with artificial neural networks. I had the first paper on antenna design using ANN in 1999. So which is still being kind of referred because that was the first paper in the whole global stage which used ANN at that time. But it's a very simple model. Now the models have become more complex and then they are completely different paradigm. Of course, but I joined CMAX at that time as for the high performance computing. So I started my career here as a scientist in high performance computing. Then I moved to security, working on cryptography and other areas. Then later, when CMAX became 4th paradigm institute, I moved myself into data sciences. So I have made number of jumps in my career, but then every jump that I have done is complementary in nature. It's not actually separate different areas. So I utilize the expertise and all which I have acquired over the previous one to reach this stage. So I again welcome everybody. I think it's a good time to discuss on AI because AI has become kind of a foundational technology now. It's like electricity, internet. AI is almost has become like that. It's not simply a tool that is a choice. Now it's not a choice. It's part of our life already. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just say it's such a pleasure to see Gopal Patra now. I've known him for 30 years, by the time when he joined, and it's really remarkable to see how well you're doing. All right, so we will get on now to the more business part of our conversations, where we pose questions and we look for answers. And while there would be one prominent gentleman or lady who's answering, we do welcome digressions, diversions. I mean, let's just have a great chat. Let the audience feel that they sort of got their money's worth, if you like, doing this. So may I start with you, Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya. So you said a little while ago that even 2 or 3 years ago, you've been really surprised. So what is it that surprises you most about AI? I mean, what would you say in the last 5 years is the biggest surprise? For some of us, it seems like the world is turning all around. Or if you say in Bengali, ki hocche ki bolun to ekbar. So what's going on?
I think thanks to his perfect Bengali, some of his... yeah, anyway, so Bengali thing we'll take later, but your important question, right? And I'm sure, I think, like whosoever I speak to, depending on whatever walks of life you are, all of us are like surprised in any ways with the advent of AI. But to me, what appeared surprising, because as I said, I was in the business of developing to contributing algorithms for which go into design of basic modules in AI, right? Of course, now I have a whole host of colleagues, and I could see something LLM emerging. But I thought not in my lifetime. And what really was, I was actually stunned when the first model came out, and today the things are. This is nothing sort of, I mean, I am bewildered, happy, excited, but the speed at which this came up shows the progress of human, innovation. That's what surprised me most, the quick speed of development of LLM kind of thing. So it was not that it was not possible, yes, but last 5 years it has changed. So that would be my quick answer.
So worried?
Semi-worried. See, once such a tool appears, see the fact that most of us use Google, and that was like 20 years ago. So in Google, what are you trying to do? You're trying to find out answers to questions. LLMs is a much more refined way of doing things, right? And now, at that point, because I was a scientist in a lab and all that, right? Your heart, mind, soul went into, okay, how can you do this better, and how intricate is of this. But now I see this technology has been built. Now it has gone on to society and the impact it is creating. There are many good things, but there are many things which need to be worried about or concerned about also. And so that's also I'm concerned. So let me list some of the concerns which I personally are engaged in and quite invested about. There is this very nice paper in 2019, I guess, which catches what I'm trying to say now. So anecdote is the deadlines for conference deadlines comes, ask students to, okay, can you get these models out and all that. And now there's a lot of GPUs. In our lab, there are a few GPUs and all that. You can see the sound it makes. And sometimes it becomes heated up. So why is this? It's because it's not coming free. And often we have not accounted for this kind of energy. The carbon footprint of training these models is really, really alarming. For example, the 2019 paper I talked about, there is something called transformer models. This is some special set of model in AI, okay? And they're a very preliminary model at that point, 2019. Now it seems to train the model, one iteration of it causes a carbon footprint of to and fro air flight between New York and San Francisco. Now all of us want our AI models, no? This is definitely alarming. So that has informed my research, and we are doing some sustainable research. This is one. Second aspect is that I see, now as these tools are getting user, as ChatGPT, all that are becoming more prevalent, I see people starting using it blindly. And now I believe AI is anything but objective. It is a function of the data which is trained upon. Of course, if you have seen all kinds of data, it's probably fine. But I must remember that, especially when I want to use it on fields which depends on subjective decision. For example, is this person good or bad? Or is this person's views on these? These are subjective decisions. And when a machine tells me that, I should not believe it that it is objective. This is one of the feelings I have. And I have a few long list of concerns, but let's hear others.
So is it getting addictive already? Would any of you say, can you actually go on in life today without AI? Yeah, any of
maybe others can say.
No, I think it is prevalent, particularly in the commercial space. I don't know about the academic space, but it's fast getting there. The reason is that there is a good side. I mean, it's not a negative. Because of the productivity, how quickly I can get to the information I'm looking for, especially I'm trying to learn something that is perhaps, say I'm the presentation that example that you cited. For the presentation, you need to build a narrative, a story of what you want to communicate. And on that particular thing, you're looking for certain data points to make a case or something like that. What would have taken 3-4 days to collate all the information is available in 5 minutes if you ask the right questions in the right way, in the sequence of things, you get that information quickly to put that in. So it's getting deeply embedded in the activities, much like how we don't think of this. 20 years back, Google was there, but how prevalent it became in using for our activities at that point in time, this is similarly becoming very, very prevalent. The other part in the industrial sector is also how quickly some of the agentic AIs are being applied to automate things. That's a different kind of a thing. AI, but it's more narrow. But everybody, now what is happening in many of the industrial things is they're enabling people with enterprise license of various technologies, these LLM technologies, for use because they are seeing the productivity gain that it can give. And certainly there is a move in the direction of usage. And I'm also seeing this in a more broader usage as well. As a general individual, people are using it for various things. For example, sometimes my wife asks questions for my 9-year-old daughter, what kind of courses or what kind of things, activities she could do that will help. For example, if they have to do certain coding or programming, what are the good ways to go doing it? These are very useful, productive things. So these are being applied on general things. And since IPL just ended, you saw everything was related, or good majority was related to some sort of LLM advertisement. And all of them were citing different use cases of how you could use it in a general sense. So I'm seeing that live. I'm seeing that in the industrial setting. I'm seeing that in the personal setting as well, where people are using this for effective use. And I'm surprised the way they are using it effectively. How quickly people caught on is another surprising part of it. And the concern part, as Chiranjeev mentioned, just a quick comment on that. I think that's a genuine thing. Energy footprint is one of the topmost challenges that we will face. So how are we going to address is going to be the challenging question of this decade if this goes on. Do note that a lot of the LLMs currently are in the expansion phase. They want a user base, and therefore the cost of the actual training is not passed on to the user just yet. At some point, once we have 2-3 winners in the market and competition grows, the cost of that will eventually be passed on to the customer as well. We have not seen that because of the expansion phase. They are subsidizing. A lot of them are going IPO, and so for various reasons they are doing that at this time.
So do we visualize the cost trade-off eventually? Like you would say, yeah, this could be done using an LLM, or could be done using AI.
No, at some point, I think it has to factor in because there will be, because assume the scenario a few years down where the cost of creating those models gets passed down to the user, the user will then use it only on a selective way, so that where they get most value is when you go there. And if you don't want to use, hypothetically assume you have for certain 1,000 rupees of monthly buy that you have some token quota that you have, and you want to use them up in a useful way. So there will be at some point some rebalancing needs to happen on, I won't go there for everything, but for only substantive thing I would want to go there depending on the cost where we land.
Because there is a bit of this debate, right, about you might reach a situation where, tokens will become so expensive that, it's worrying. So About tokens, Akash, what's going to happen? We assume that the number of tokens is going to increase and keep on increasing. So are we ready for it?
I would say most orgs are kind of, because they already have some budgeting done in place. So if you've seen the most recent news about the Uber CTO also saying that they blew past their token quota for the year in like a quarter. So these are things which happen and have happened as well if you don't have guardrails around your billing specifically. But from an org perspective, I would say figuring out technologies which let you cache these things beforehand. So let's say if I upload a 1,000-page PDF, I would not want anybody else in my org again uploading that and again having to regenerate or like do pre-fill and then figure out the question answer. I would like it for my org to kind of cache it at an org level, not at an individual level. So these are technologies which kind of, I would say, are beyond the model per se. So it's not dependent on the model. It's about the stack that is sitting right above it. So I would say we are in a fairly good shape and people are trying to figure that out, which is very important instead of like leaving it for some other day or some other quarter. So it's in progress, I would say. Yeah.
So discipline. Basically,
exactly. Yeah. Like how cloud costs were a huge thing when cloud initially took up, like maybe let's say 20 years ago. But right now everybody has kind of like tamed those costs or like have an idea of how to do that. But with LLMs, like it's only been like 3 years since it's like properly in the mainstream. So I think it's going to be there, but we are in like properly in progress, at least on that route. Yeah.
Since you mentioned costs, are costs going to go down? I presume yes.
100%, yeah.
Significantly?
That would depend again, like if you think of costs from today's model's perspective, yes. But if let's say the models keep getting better or bigger over time, then the amount of work you do also increases because you're getting more out of it. So costs may be, I would say, dependent on the model and the context as well. So it's not going to apply for the same model today versus, let's say, a year in the future.
So if I can just ask you, Navya. So as someone who's sort of worried about the quality and the costs of a process, could you advise people on, he said, I won't want multiple people to be uploading the same PDF, 1,000-page PDF file. So can you build these things into as part of specifications that good users can follow? What kind of discipline? Can we come up with a code of discipline, code of conduct for users?
I think that's the perfect word you have used, discipline, code of conduct, because that is what forms the ground for a good AI usage or building the right model or having the right set of guardrails. Everything depends on code of conduct. Everything boils down to that. So yes, certainly we can. And there are companies which are already working towards it. One of the, I wouldn't want to name, but one of the financial conglomerate which is part of the Arab Monetary Fund, they have already built this. They are kind of rolling this out in the Middle East, and they're trying to see if the costs can be curtailed.
Do you think humans will be more disciplined or machines?
Humans, for sure.
Oh, that's reassuring.
By all means. Because if you see any issue, so just to give you an example, once I had read that Amazon's hiring tool was biased against women. Now the machine doesn't know whether the applicant is a woman or a man, but it was the human fingerprint which was found. So in most of the cases, it's always the human fingerprint which is found, and hence it's imperative for the humans to be civilized and I wouldn't say civilized, sorry. But
no, you can say it. I think we do have a gap there right now. Yeah.
So I think we need to be civilized because if we are civilized, the machines will follow.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, if I can come back to the professor. One of the questions I have is, what are LLMs? Are they do they have real intelligence, or basically they're still a pattern matcher?
Okay, so the question is, what are LLMs? Do they have intelligence? Or
could you say that LLMs are capable of genuine reasoning, or would you say that they're still sort of looking for patterns?
It's a good question. See, when I say reasoning, then you're assuming there's somebody like a human form like us. And see, but at the core of it, if you ask somebody what is reasoning, you will not get a good answer. Okay? Right? All of us have our own way of thinking of reasoning. right? Now, what has happened, and especially it starts the definition of AI. Maybe that's not time to go about it, but the point is that if you heard this person is a very smart person. So what does smart person do? Why do you say this person is a smart person? The person can be smart, but the person is probably not doing anything, just watching movies. Would you call the person smart? But smart is intellectual ability. So the way we use it is a smart person can solve complex problems. Now, if I can bring an LLM to solve a complex problem, you tend to call the person maybe a person reason. So this is the practice of it. So it is for sure, and that is there's no doubt about this, that LLMs do not do reasoning in the sense of biochemical or whatever thinking process we do. But it is still capable of doing complex things. That is proven time and again, and in the future we will see more important things going on, right? So clearly then, so now there are two groups of thoughts here, by and large, as I know of. So one group of thought clearly says LLMs are incapable of reasoning. They are just simple pattern matching. There is another school, if you may say, and which probably I am more aligned to as well, that look, this notion of reasoning, as we just discussed, is not a very well-defined term. And if you define reasoning as ability to reason doesn't mean anything unless I solve complex problems. So maybe in LLMs does internal representations which makes it capable of solving complex problems, and hence it can reason. So this is the line of thought I agree to, and I do not know how much this answers this question. But I would also like to point out one interesting fact. So maybe implicit in your question is, are LLM pattern matchers? In some sense, yes. So LLMs are very good at correlation. So where it dramatically fails is causation. And maybe it's getting better every day, and I can elaborate that as we go along. But that would be my answer to your question.
So suppose I submit to you that LLM, large language model, we are still playing with words. And it would seem that all the intelligence or artificial intelligence that we talk of today is dependent on words. What if there were no words? Would we still have a kind of AI? Can I think of an AI without LLMs?
You mean, what do you mean by LLMs in the sense that, can I think about LLM as without natural language input?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe what we did not say is, you asked this question LLMs. So LLMs are basically, if we keep us in a certain language model, it's an auto-regressive model. That is, it sees something, then guesses the next one. Now that can apply to even videos. So let's assume that LLM is just like a person. What does the person do? He can't write, can't hear, but can see. So whatever ability you see, ability which you have, LLM can do. Having said that, LLMs have made a lot of progress in languages, some progress in vision, and some progress in audio in that order. But this is rapidly being overhauled. Now it is called out that LLMs do not do a great job of interacting with physical world. This is also an instance of what is known as Moravec's paradox. That was decided in 1980s, I believe, where Moravec is a scientist, a roboticist in fact. What he said was an interesting thing. A computer can easily solve complex mathematical problems. But a 2-year-old child, if you say walk across the room, will naturally walk, but a robot may not be able to walk as easily as possible. So this is called Moravec's hypothesis. So LLMs, and this reason comes is that the machines may not be as capable as interacting with the real world, right? But of course, this is being challenged every day. So this would be my question, my answer to what you are saying. Okay.
What do you see 5 years later?
What do you see 5 years later?
How would the AI scenario look like in 2030?
Short answer, I have no clue.
Okay.
The way I am, as I said, I have some expertise in developing technologies behind those models. But how these models will go and impact society is beyond me. And I am surprised and puzzled every other day. But I sincerely believe that like there should be awareness that all people, all of us citizens, common citizens, should not accept LLM's outputs as the only thing. This is one point. Because LLM, as Madam mentioned, see, that bias stemmed because the data fed to Amazon's that tool was 10 years old previous data on resumes, which are all male. So this is going on. Now, internet, everything you write and all that, that goes into these machines, right? So I hope, I don't know, so that's why you must be careful. And you are using more subjective decisions. Is this person good or bad? Oh, you know, all kinds of things we will take decisions on. This is point number one. Second point is, I earnestly believe that the concentration of these technologies are alarming. Only very few companies in the world have access to that. This can challenge citizenship like anything. So I hope by 2030 we'll live in a much more nicer world where everybody has access to these things, you know, and maybe biases will be less.
So if we look at 2030, maybe we look at the other great computing paradigm, that is quantum computing. So just tell us a little bit about quantum computing and what do you think is likely to happen?
Yeah, so quantum computing is a fundamentally new model of compute. All the compute that is currently available, CPU, GPU, and all of that, at basic level aligns to the mathematical paradigm of using Boolean algebra for its calculation at the fundamental transistor level operations. That's the limiting factor in terms of the mathematical framing of how the computation is implemented in actual hardware. It doesn't matter it is CPU or GPU, as long as you're using a transistor, the logic of it is underlying mathematical framework is Boolean algebra. In quantum computing, the rules of the game is set by the principles of quantum physics. So there are various principles of quantum physics, like entanglement. These are very uniquely quantum physical principles. There are a couple of others, superposition, interference, that are, some of them are consequence of the basic feature. What is done there is, can you use those physically originating principles and apply it to compute to generate value? Mathematically, the rules of the game for quantum physics is linear algebra. So the compute at a basic level, the rules it follows is not Boolean algebra, but linear algebra. Secondly, the other thing that is fundamentally different is quantum physics is fundamentally a probabilistic theory. At its core, you get certain distributions as output. And therefore, it's fundamentally a probabilistic engine. The difference with that engine vis-a-vis any other probabilistic engine in the classical sphere is most of the classical, in fact, all of the classical sphere, the probability theory follows the Bayesian statistical oriented solution. The rules of the game is that. Quantum physics, and this is where the fundamental difference comes, is that the rules is probability amplitude, not probability. So mod square of it gives you the probability. So the transformations happens at probability amplitude level when you do the calculations. Therefore, entanglement is a fancy term for correlation at probability amplitude instead of correlation at probability. So it generalizes the probability theory, and the rules of the game is quantum probability instead of classical probability. So with these two, linear algebra being the framework, the probability game that it follows, you are trying to solve computational problems. And that then leads to, in a computational complexity theory, to a different computational class called BQP, bounded quantum probability, which is different from BPP, which is bounded probability thing. So it subsumes the P class in the BP, and it can go some of the NP hard and some part in the P space in terms of complexity. So theoretically, it is computationally very different from what is doable classically.
So how do you see the relationship between quantum computing and AI?
So that is where
or could you give us examples where it's obviously going to be harmonious and going to be good, and one they could be indifferent to each other, and there would be a situation where they're actually kind of hostile to each other? And I know they are dumb questions, but maybe you give me smart answers.
I actually think it's very symbiotic in terms of its relationship. AI can help quantum, quantum can help AI, and it will be in that kind of regime. Quantum fundamentally is a technology at this point in time. Now, currently we are looking at how AI can help in designing our chip better.
Okay.
So right now AI is helping us. The other could be that how once quantum becomes more mature, there could be applications in AI where quantum can add significant value. For example, problems, I was talking to somebody yesterday, problems in the space of anomaly detection. Can we do a better job of it? Because you're perhaps looking at deeper correlations at a probability amplitude level of the problem. Perhaps you get some deeper insights. Can you do better prediction? Because of this pattern that you need to unearth, you're looking for correlations at a more deeper level. Is there something that you could look at? The other possible space where I'm curious to see is in the small data world. Now, for example, precision medicine is on the horizon. Now, the data for precision medicine in the healthcare sector is generally done at population level. Now, if you are doing precision medicine, it's at individual level. The data will necessarily be small. How do you predict that you're going to have a stroke in 2 years based on certain things? You need to have a small set of data from which you are predicting certain things. How good is the prediction? And that is a very interesting space to look at in terms of can quantum as a technology benefit AI in doing a better job of predicting in those kind of sectors.
Okay. Would you have any reactions? We talk generally about high performance computing. Would you react to? Yeah. Go.
Asking me or?
Yeah, I mean, you've been working on high performance computing for as long as I remember. So how do you react to quantum computing?
No, yes. So quantum.
You are setting up your center.
Yeah.
What are you going to have in it?
CSIR is very keen and participating with IBM and TCS for this Quantum Valley in Amravati. And especially at this point of time, we see there are few things, lots of biology applications like drug discovery and all, which can take real advantage of quantum computing. But certainly a full-fledged quantum computing you don't see in the next, by 2030. So we are looking at a kind of a hybrid kind of thing where, because quantum cannot solve all problems, but there are some problems where quantum really can do much, but like multipliers it can do the
So
computing.
we pull out drug discovery. Any other example where you think quantum is obviously more likely to win?
No, materials where you have to work at quantum level.
Okay.
That is where quantum computers will do well. But so the hybrid will work better because some portion the classical computers are good, some portion the quantums are good. So quantum as an accelerator is an immediate solution that we can look at.
Okay. Do you have any reaction? Or if you have, otherwise I don't want to force you into talking. Okay, so let me just move on to...
I just had one comment
yes, sure.
on the value unlock from quantum. I mean, in the popular media, there has been a little bit of a misconception that value will come only if there is fault-tolerant machine. And that first fault-tolerant machine, at least in IBM's roadmap, is 2029. And therefore, the value will come only after 2029. IBM's formal point of view is that the value from these machines will come even before fault tolerance.
Okay.
And Jay Gambetta, who is our IBM research head, is on record saying that there will be quantum advantage in 2026, perhaps maybe going into 2027, give or take. We have a formal definition of what quantum advantage would be, and that we can go to the technicals of it, but there is an open leaderboard currently available. If you go search for quantum advantage tracker, you will get to see a page where people can submit whatever is their quantum results to the tracker, saying that this is a candidate for a quantum advantage. Basically, it's saying this is an answer that is well and truly beyond classical. Okay, and it's basically a hypothesis testing. They are positioning this as a value add. Somebody else doing classical can go and challenge that and say, no, 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 I have a solution that beats you, and therefore it is not a candidate. And if such a thing comes, they go off the leaderboard. So, and that leaderboard is now very active.
Okay.
And I think what's likely to happen is certainly it will come in waves. The value unlock will come in waves in terms of sector. I certainly agree with Dr. Patro about the simulation class. That seems more immediate. And that's what we also expect, that first in this coming year, you will see value add quantum advantage in the simulation class of problems. We expect subsequently the next wave will be the optimization class of problems. And then maybe a couple of years down or 2-3 years down is the machine learning class of problems. Finally, the system of partial differential equations is likely to be more closer to the end of the decade, is how we are seeing it.
There is one more thing that CSI is keenly working is the quantum sensors. That's something which looks like an immediate possible things, taking advantage of the sensitivity of these quantum behaviors, using that as a sensing methodology. That NPL at Delhi, they are keenly working on those aspects.
Okay. So now let me look at you. We have talked about 2030 already, so in other conversations so far. So my question to you is, are you likely to sleep more comfortably in 2030 or less comfortably, given the way AI upsurge is growing? Would you sleep more comfortably in 2030 or you're better off tonight?
I don't see any comfortability back, even in 2030, because somewhere it will only increase human stupidity, considering that our own thinking capabilities will come down. I'm not demeaning we humans, we are a great species, but having said that, over-dependence on AI is going to do that. That's one. Second, there will also be a lot of security issues which would accompany that. I am highlighting the security issue because I primarily come from that background, more than the coding aspect or designing the LLM part, which I've done early on in my career. But what we have seen is even the EU AI Act, which came into picture, that came only after GPT-3 came in. They were that late. So the innovation has been fast, the governance has been slow. And that gap somewhere is a threat, and that gap is only going to increase, if not reduce. So I don't think so we will be any more comfortable in 2030 unless we are equipped to handle or have that kind of vision and work on the governance aspect and the security aspect.
Let's say that we go all out and do support. Do we have the tools to protect ourselves in 2030? Is it an inability to accept tools, or is it an inability of availability of tools? Quality tools or security tools?
No, so again, availability of tools depends on the developers. How well do we develop? How well do we evolve? The way AI is evolving and the models are being trained, these tools also need to evolve. And we are working towards it. Today we see AI-based attacks. So we have AI-based tools to detect them in real time. We have, today almost all cars are automated. Just to give you an example, there is a CAN bus chip in every car, which helps us to unlock the car from a certain distance and give the ignition command to the car. We have also seen Mahindra X9 XEV, I think, which comes to us wherever we are, it parks itself. So all these they're based on AI, but can they be broken? Yes, certainly. So I have personally worked on Tesla's engines data. We have been successfully able to break it. It's not that it cannot be. However, there are measures and guardrails which needs to be followed.
So in principle, we can save the world, but we should want to save the world in some sense.
Perfectly summed up.
Okay. Yeah. We haven't talked too much with Akash. The interactions that we're having with the machine. I remember you gave a talk, or you gave a, let me give you an example. Let's say I interact with my own grandson. If you give a keyboard and you ask him to look for characters, I, N, and all that, he struggles because he's really not worked enough on the keyboard. And after a while, he'll just switch off all that and start speaking. So increasingly, it seems that, voice is taking over. So how do you see this voice scene?
I think it's from who's the user. So if it's from us as a POV, then yes, voice. But if you think of where AI is going in parallel, like not just from a consumer's perspective, like you think of it from factories, warehouses, inspection pipelines, and even let's say deep down, maybe under the ground in some robotics platform. So there you have not just voice, there is vision, there is all plethora of sensors that are available. And you want intelligence to show up there as well. For us, voice is primarily from us interacting with it, but that system now has the ability to like go out, either seek other sources of like information or sensors that are out there. And voice may be just one aspect of it for us to communicate with it, but for it to do tasks that we want it to do, there is a lot of different modalities that it shows.
So what do you think will become eventually the most popular interface to interact with the machine?
Like I said, like depends on the context. So let's say if it's a robot in your house, which may be the future that we all want ideally, but if it's from an industrial perspective, it depends on the context. So if it's a factory floor, voice may not be possible at all, given the sheer noise. But if it is, let's say, something vision-based, that could be something. So if you can instruct in voice, but for the robot to do its task, it will have to depend on other modalities as well.
What's going to happen next on the chip scene? I mean, if you can answer that question.
I think most recently, like even at the GTC event in March and even at the Computex like 2 weeks back. So we've had like a roadmap which is public already. So we are waiting on, let's say, the Rubin chips to like show up in production the second half of this year basically, and subsequently Feynman-based chips. So the industry, I think we are at, let's say, the current, I would say, 2 nanometer process and like around that vicinity. And I think more density is where we are going for. So per die having more compute as opposed to having more like stack layers. Yeah.
So suppose we...
when is this scarcities can be achieved? Like, because right now this situation in the market is very bad. We are not even getting systems delivered in time. People are cancelling orders. So that's a bigger challenge for us than actually working something positive. Because so any thought about it? Though I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I thought it should be.
No, I mean, I can only answer obviously whatever is public. But yeah, I think bottlenecks are there. They're not just on us. It's across the ecosystem. So if the ecosystem has... So if you remember, I think in 2011 or 2012, there was this Thailand flood that happened. And that time storage prices shot up because they were manufactured over there. And we as an industry have like built up resilience over time. And I'm sure like this is also heading in that direction, having more resiliency, more places to manufacture as well.
So if there is a constituency that wants to claim credit for the successful and continuing growth of AI, which would be that constituency? Would you chip guys say that it's all because of us?
Very unlikely. I think it's an ecosystem play. I think it's not...
What does the professor feel?
Is there a one winner you're saying we are the ones who are made responsible?
And claim that because of us, this current...
Who could claim credit for the development and growing success of AI?
I can be parochial.
Please do.
Scientists, but that's not the right answer. Right answer, I agree with him. It is a culmination of many things. But I think we have to come back. Let me just make this comment that this was Alan Turing's vision. What we call AI and the way the field has developed is exactly what he laid down the foundation. That can you build a machine which can compete with a human? And there's something called Turing test. I can detail it out later. So I think given his vision, and I think from the chip makers to fancy computer programming to statistics, all of them coming together. So I think it is probably 3 generations of excellent engineering and researchers across many disciplines. We have to thank them.
What could be the next breakthrough in AI? I don't know the answer. I don't know if, what can we speculate?
Maybe I will
Yeah,
speak
please.
that.
Yes.
Current AI, LLMs learn the language, correct? So maybe the next thing is AI learning the science itself. Not depending on the language, but then understanding the conservation laws, the equations and all itself. So that could be the next AI, because LLMs, yes, they have understood the languages, now they are very well placed. But to understand the science, to understand the various constraints that is there from science, that LLMs still have not understood. That's the reason why they do like kind of hallucinations quite a bit. Of course, things have improved over time, but I think the next thing has to be AI learning science itself directly.
Okay. Anyone wants to add?
Yeah, I'll just add to this. I think, like Dr. Gopal sir rightly said, it's about reducing noise and increasing efficiency. That would be a major breakthrough. Because despite doing the basic part of data cleaning or sanitization, there is still a lot of bias which happens when we take it to the real world, when we try to
have certain inclinations to the diagnosis,
And not
certain things,
inclinations, compulsions as well.
compulsions as
Because
well.
increasingly
But
they want to push their drugs. Yeah.
so one thing, to be fair, with all the bias and other things taken on board, assuming that still holds going forward, AI doesn't have a vested interest in damaging somebody if it is trained the way it is trained. Then I would rather have a doctor look at the AI and whatever insights they do, and then look at me to say what is the best way forward, so that some of the blind sides could be avoided, and maybe if they get into tunnel vision, they get data-based, data-driven inferences in front of them for them to consider, is perhaps will add value.
Okay, maybe I'll just. Yeah. Okay. Now, so if we look at AI briefly from an India-specific viewpoint, okay, we see the so-called, we might call it the AI revolution, it's happening. Now, what should India do? Or are there some India-specific, India-typical problems that AI could solve better? I mean, if you talk of medical stuff with some voice, I clearly see that there's a benefit to reach a patient who otherwise a doctor can't reach. So are there any other such, top use cases for India?
No, of course, there is plenty.
I will ask all of you to.
There's plenty, and I think it is very heartening to see, for example, now of course, by and large, we are not that much visible in the global space, but having said that, a lot of good beginnings have been made, right? And one of these things is government's push to use AI. I'm not really, I just heard about these things, maybe the other colleagues here who know better, on using AI for governance. Government has many, many nice schemes on many aspects, agriculture, medicine, health, and all that. But often they are mired in 20,000 documents and not properly informed and all that, right? So I think AI will play a huge role, and I think there's a recognition also, I think, by the authorities that AI can play a huge role on this. So this, I would believe, would put India in a very, very good position. I think no other country has this kind of challenge which India has. Because there are a lot of good policies, there are actually money in there, but the audience just doesn't know. So this is one place I would see, like India-specific opportunity, I would say, not a challenge. And many other things will happen, for example, voice-enabled services and things like that, which will also develop new technologies.
Multiple languages, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about that.
AI in judiciary. AI in judiciary is something which will be very specific to India. You cannot take the LLMs which are designed on US and Europe and then use it for our purposes. And also there's some certain applications where we have to have our own AI models which can work on that. And of course, when we talk about our various scientific aspects, like we talk about geohazard in Himalayas, we cannot use the models that has been designed there. We have to design our own models for our own specific requirements, agriculture, our agricultural practices. These all will need a specific kind of localized inputs or data for running the model. So we will have those kind of applications where we will be using more of this AI, which is more of India specific.
Do we see AI coming into, say, earthquake prediction or monsoon prediction? This is the time when people predict monsoons. And I'm slightly bothered that we only seem to think that there is that El Nino, and that seems to determine how much rainfall we are going to have in India. So are there,
No, I think there are more cursors, not only El Nino. I think that IOD is also something which applies. But so there is a debate right now going on. El Nino is, I think it's already found, but then IOD is kind of forming in a different manner. So whether it really will have impact on monsoon, I think we have lots of weather scientists sitting here who will be able to say better.
We should ask them, yes, at the end of it.
So they will be a better place to talk about.
Essentially, if AI can make a difference. That was the context.
Yeah, AI cannot change anything happening. So it's only can predict or can give some medicinal inputs.
Shisha, AI for India, where would you?
I think I'm more bullish about this in terms of AI for India specifically, just because of the last, say 10, 15 years of track record, particularly on the digital public infrastructure, that DPI that was done. It has fundamentally altered the banking sector problems. Suddenly it has democratized. Even a rural person far off with a simple mobile phone and possibly an internet could create a bank account and money could flow. And we saw that in COVID time, how effectively that was leveraged. Otherwise, you would have seen significant, real, tangible disaster happening in front of us. That means that these kind of technology, especially country like us with $3,500 roughly per capita income, need to look at technology in a more forward-looking way to say how I can take and leapfrog and solve some of my fundamental problems that otherwise would cost me or take inordinate amount of time to get to. One of the examples that Dr. Patra cited was in the legal and the other was on the healthcare sector. These are real problems. Even healthcare, for example, rural healthcare, we do have serious problem in terms of getting high quality medical attention to everywhere in the country. Now, can these technologies, say at the very local panchayat level, you have some deployment where at least some reasonable 60-70% of the problems could be immediately identified and rectified right there, right? Using AI, looking at certain things. And for any non-serious, they could go to taluka level or somewhere else to solve that problem. Now, we need to be more, given the challenges we face and the resource constraints that we have as a country at this point in our journey, we need to be more forthcoming in adopting the technology with the caveat of something that Navya has been flagging, that we need to have guardrails too. So I think because the problems are real, we need to look at this as an opportunity to leapfrog into it in terms of applying.
I was just thinking on the word leapfrog. Is it an opportunity for a India technology leapfrog?
I'm hoping that we will have an AI stack of our own similar to DPI.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's going
to add to the healthcare part. Yesterday only we signed an MOU with one institute, Sri Satya Sai Institute of Human Excellence, who run 150 hospitals, rural hospitals across the country. And fortunately, because they serve only to rural population. So that's something which we wanted to leverage in our healthcare research. And one positive thing that we saw there is they've already taken consent of the participants, the patients and all, to use their information for research purpose. So we looking at that as an advantage for us to work on healthcare, because that's the biggest challenge that we face, because the healthcare data belongs to the patient, not to the hospital. So they cannot give you the data until unless there is a ethical acceptance of that. So that way we see that there is some things which are moving. So hopefully, everything is rural population, and they provide free of cost medical facility for the rural population. So that is a huge amount of data that we want to exploit in future.
AI for India? Some India perspective.
Yes, of course. So like Dr. Shisha rightly said, I am also extremely bullish because I worked on this, and I would like to quote 3 examples from 3 different critical infrastructure, of which 2 I've personally worked on. The first one being the banking and financial sector. Like you rightly said, we had designed the model back in 2018, where we were able to, and we presented this to Ministry of Finance as well, which was lauded and was being asked by a couple of public sector banks to implement. So what we did was we designed the model which could reduce the fraud rates, and the frauds could be flagged instantly. When it came to, it was integrated with the loan origination system. So what happens is we have seen a massive default of around 79% in certain postcodes, certain areas, which was reduced to an extent of only 39%. The fraud rates were brought that down. So AI helped us there, building the model. The second one is in terms of automotive. Like I told you, today we are moving towards autonomous cars, and where there were reports of people even being able to, break through Tesla's Cybertruck and generate the GAN files, try to divert it. We were successfully able to bring that down as well. The third sector, which currently we are focusing, at least our startup is focusing, is in the defense system. So recently from past 3 years, we have been hearing of Ukraine-Russia war. And the first attack, when Ukraine sent swarm of drones to Russia, nearly 79 to 80% of them hit the exact location, the destination, which the drones were designed to or were instructed to. However, the second time when Ukraine sent the swarm of drones, it couldn't even hit 7 to 8% of the target destination. Now, what happened between these two intervals was Russia was able to deploy the anti-GPS spoofing system, which I was talking to Dr. Gopal also yesterday. This is something that we intend to develop, which we have almost done. It's around in testing phase, but this is something which is of critical requirement, considering we have a lot of loving neighbors and we need to reduce that love. So we need to be self-sufficient in that particular segment. And lastly, being a sports enthusiast, I think me and Dr. Sendil were discussing this today morning itself, and that's a beautiful concept which I was thinking of, and he voiced it actually. Thank you for reminding me. That is replacing Duckworth-Lewis method. We have seen how unfairly the teams have lost in the past, including India. He gave the example of South Africa, but I've seen India losing it. So being a cricket dominant nation, why can't we kind of eliminate the wait time when the umpires actually go to the third umpire and, or wait for the DRS system to evaluate? Why can't it be done instantly? The way football is evolving, why can't cricket evolve? The technology in cricket evolve. So these are the couple of segments that I think, of course, cricket is not critical infrastructure, but just adding to this. It's critical, right?
Yeah.
It's critical.
Since you mentioned DL, I do want to do a bit of bragging, because go Googling and you see which Indian name has written the most about the Duckworth-Lewis method. You probably find my name there, because I've been doing it for the last 20 years. And of course, I had the privilege of exchanging a whole lot of mails with both Duckworth and Lewis, who are both unfortunately dead. And yeah, we can talk about it, but really to me, the solution is a kind of a machine learning solution. I don't want to, but I'm very clear about it. There's no rule that's going to be fair, because even in Duckworth-Lewis, you're looking at essentially two parameters. On a certain pitch, the ball will rise truly and it won't rise truly. So where is Duckworth-Lewis figuring that out? Why can Dhoni hit a ball we should talk of Suryavanshi now. So why can he hit a six so easily on one kind of a pitch and not on another kind of pitch? So there are many more variables involved. And Duckworth-Lewis trying to come up with a pure mathematical exponential decay function kind of formula doesn't get you too far. Machine learning is a solution. In fact, IIC should do that, come up with, I've been arguing for a long time. We need a rain rule, and I think the Duckworth-Lewis is not good enough. I won't talk more, but let's have India and AI, any perspective. We didn't talk enough about the war perspective until she talked, and we didn't talk enough about the big one, but that is AI and education. So, your thoughts? After that, we have to take audience questions.
Sure. I think we covered the legal defense and the other aspects. I think coming to teaching, not just teaching from a primary school or collegiate level. I'm saying teaching across age spans. And one of the bottlenecks has always been teacher-student ratio or getting access to experts across your field. So one way in which AI, whether it is a proprietary one, whether it's an open source one, is the amount of information that is compressed into it. So you could literally be carrying this in your phone, in your laptop, or in the cloud. and have access to it 24/7. So you are the bottleneck, not the system. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. If you have follow-up questions, have it do some deep research, do auto research, all these things that are available out there today for you to improve your own understanding of whatever topic it is. So it's a matter of your, let's say, opportunity cost, that let's say sitting and waiting for the answer versus figuring out, okay, is this approach the right one to take? So doing both in parallel, I would say, is a very good thing. And from an India perspective, we have that advantage and rather the richness of data as well. So we have so many languages, scheduled and non-scheduled specifically. And in a day-to-day usage, it's both. It could be a mix of two, it could be a mix of three, maybe not four, but making these models work with that in production, like in real use cases, is very, I would say, crucial, which is what most companies are trying to solve. I wouldn't say it's pretty much solved, but it's almost on the way to being solved compared to what it was, let's say, even 5-6 years ago. And I think circling back to one of the starting points you had about word-based models versus like non-word-based models, right? I would say pre-transformers, maybe not the 2016 one, it was all primarily predictive. You're not generating, maybe GAN was an exception, but they're all predicting things, whether it is classes of the, let's say, image, or predicting bounding boxes, or doing ASR specifically. Now we have come to a generative paradigm. So post, let's say, 2019 or even maybe BERT sort of a paper, we figured out a way to instruct these models. And that I would say is the biggest, I would say, layer shift or level shifter. Because before that, we didn't have a clue as to how do you instruct these models. We had things like RASA, which will do intent identification. So you get speech from ASR models, and ASR models have been there even before ChatGPT, obviously. And what has changed is this intent identification, talking back to you, conversing, understanding the things. And I think the GPT-3 paper specifically, the instruction adherence part, so 3.5 primarily, that is key, because we had BERT or even the transformers address translations. That was the goal. M sequence in, M sequence out. So it's not a word-to-word mapping that you could do. And translation, modifying that use case to instruction following, is what gave us ChatGPT, which is the 3.5 variant of GPT. So that sort of shift has happened, and we are seeing this apply to a lot of Indian use cases as well. So I think we are at the precipice of like solving multilingual stuff as well. So it's good to see that in country.
Yes. Okay, so we could talk on, but there's always a time to end. So we would now like to take questions from the audience. I believe there will be some mics available for. Okay, there is a. Yeah, so please do raise your hands and then.
Thanks for this beautiful piece of discussion, which is around AI. So I have got a couple of questions for Dr. Ranganathan, one question for Navya ma'am, and a couple of questions for Akash sir. So I resonate more with Dr. Ranganathan because being an ex-IBMer. So in the early 20s, I worked with IBM for almost 7 years on the STG group. So coming back, I really appreciate the way AI-enabled doctors. So that is where we are working. Coming back to the question.
So, yeah, what's your question? Yes.
Yeah, coming back to the questions. When in IBM, when we were there, we talk about IBM Watson, which was trying to resolve the cancer detection and all those things. The question is in the quantum. So we talk about the quantum thing, right? So there are two things. How this quantum is going to help find the patterns, so that the precision medicine about precision medicine. So are we working something on that? The second question.
Yeah, maybe we'll take them one by one, unless it's related.
Okay, and the token side.
Okay.
Token side is related to Akash also.
Can I suggest that you answer that first, please?
Please.
Yeah.
So there is actually a working group on healthcare and life sciences that is looking at quantum in healthcare and life sciences. And that you should be able to go find that online. There is a position paper, white paper put out by them, range of things on how quantum can impact the broader scale of healthcare and life sciences, genomics, everything comes together in that particular space. So IBM is involved in that working group on healthcare and life sciences on looking at application of quantum computing to broader healthcare life sciences sector, working with subject matter expertise in that thing. And this white paper a couple of years back was sort of saying what are the good problems to look at. But by no means they are the exclusive set, but at least it gives you a kind of sense of the problems that we are looking at. So you would want to go take a look at that and see whether something resonates with you.
Okay, the second question is System Technology Center, SPC we used to call it, right? So outside people also can come to the lab and do their...
Is it an AI related question? I mean, I'm sorry to be...
Yes, the question is related to the token, usage of token. As we all know, the cost is rising up. So coming back to the question, how quantum, because we are looking at the quantum computing, how it can address that token issues in the future.
So I'm going to make it a technology argument on how that is. So you sort of say this is a fundamentally new technology, and to the point that Professor Bhattacharya earlier made regarding the energy and sustainability of these kind of models, then you ask yourself, what is the carbon footprint of this technology in terms of the value it brings to the cost it incurs? So currently, the preliminary estimation is it will be in the order of few megawatts compared to the gigawatt scale that the hyperscalers will take. But again, if it can add substantial value because of the fundamental nature of the technology, the value could be very significantly different. So I want to differentiate the two. One is the tangible cost in terms of energy, which we think is orders less at scale when we get to it. This is currently an estimation. The intangible part is the value it can bring. And if that is highly disproportionate, then the trade-off, just the tangible part itself is a good trade-off given the energy challenges, and that may impact the token cost. To your point, if the hyperscalers of the future, which we call as quantum-centric supercomputing, where you have CPU farm, GPU farm, and then the QPU farm, the token would be a culmination of all of this, the costing of it. And if QPU can add value disproportionate and the energy cost is less for certain things, hope is that the per token cost will also reduce.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there other... Yeah, please. I can see a raised hand here.
Navya ma'am, are we doing something on the DPDP under DPDP Act? Are we something also aligning to the...
Oh, wait a minute. I think the gentleman, you've asked a couple. Thank you. We are short of time, you know.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks to the panelists. I have one question on maybe to the professor about the use of AI in scientific communications, ethical aspects of it, and putting up proposals using AI. So what do you view of it and how we can leverage AI at the same time maintain ethical aspects?
If I get the question correct, you wanted to know the views on ethical aspects of
using AI in scientific communications, maybe paper publications or writing proposals.
So I think for paper publications, if we use AI, it is important that we must declare this. There are two aspects to it. One aspect is editorial aspect. For example, I write a better English. The thing is, it depends on the conference. If I want to, or a journal, the journal is about a technical breakthrough you want to say, right? There, if I'm just using it to just polish the language of it, I think first it must be acknowledged for sure, but it is, I think, less of a harm. But if a technical result has been derived, then it must be acknowledged. And now the challenge in the field is we do not have the tools to detect these things. You know, so this would going forward. What is so when we write a paper with our name on it, it is expected that I have made the intellectual right. This is challenging us, and at this point, there are no good answers. You can only appeal to our good ethics that if you use this, kindly declare. But beyond this appeal, I don't think there are any other tools. And for project proposal, I think it is reasonably fine, provided. But I think disclosure is important, I would believe. That's the way to go. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yeah. Please make your questions short. We'll give you short answers.
Thank you very much. It was really a very nice discussion. I have a very quick one question to all the panelists. We were touching on prediction using AI. How it is going? I mean, can we really predict whether natural or man-made issues? If we predict using AI, suppose the stock market is going to fall tomorrow, or FIFA is going to be taken by certain so-and-so country, or tomorrow there is an earthquake. If we succeed using AI, predicting these issues, how will be our life, where our life will go?
Yeah.
So, if I got a question right, you're saying whether AI can predict it. I'll give you an example. This is a personal example. I gifted my father Apple Watch. He doesn't like watches, but since he is 70, I said this is pretty much required for your safety. It will give me health details, share his health details. He had a fall. The watch beeped. It sent me the notification. It said your father fell. So that was the perfect prediction. And I could rush and take him to the doctor at the right time. Although he was in coma for 3 days, eventually it was a very serious. He had multiple brain fractures and complications. But at least that first prediction which the watch gave was accurate. It said that there is something wrong with your father. He fell. I just casually picked up the phone to check. He didn't answer. I had to rush back. I came home, I saw him lying. I asked him what happened. He couldn't speak. He was just saying that I understood. So that's where prediction is. Yes, it can predict and can predict accurately. And the second example I gave you in the real world is where we designed in terms. It could do that. So I don't know if I've answered your complete question, but it did.
Yeah, I think we have to stop.
We'll take this offline.
We could talk it offline because I'm getting frantic waves from the other side that we have to stop. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank you for being present.
Sir, just one question.
Are you sure you can't do it one-on-one later?
It is to Chiranjeevi actually.
We'll request him to give a very quick answer, yes.
All these LLM model, you are talking about that causative factor, it won't affect individual parameter causative factor. Only it will follow the linear pattern. And sometimes it will show, based on the pattern, it will predict the situation. Or any weather model, I am talking about basically weather model. So do you think that existing dynamic model and this data-based LLM model, these are comparable, or which is the best we can follow and we can perform the weather prediction?
Okay, so...
I'm asking about what is the percentage, exact percentage.
So frankly, I have no... I think your question is far too technical to get a technical answer, and I don't think I have expertise to... Because I have not personally worked on weather prediction with current LLMs. So, very short answer, I have no clue.
Which I think kind of sums up what many of us think about AI right now. So, thank you very much. I hope it's been enjoyable for us. I believe it's enjoyable for you too. So, happy Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request just 2 more minutes to formally close this. Maybe overwhelming response from the audience gives me immense pleasure that we could deliver what we wanted to deliver in this panel discussion. So what an enriching and thought-provoking discussion this has been. As a small token of appreciation for the valuable contribution, I now request our moderator Dr. Bhogle sir to present mementos to each one of our esteemed panelists. May I request Bhogle sir to present memento to Gopal Krishna Patra sir. Now may I request Bhogle sir to present mementos to Professor Chiranjeevi sir. Again, I would request Bhogle sir to present mementos to Dr. Shesha Raghunathan. And now, again, I request Bhogle sir to present memento to Akash Paul. And one last time, I would request Bhogle sir to present the memento to Ms. Navi Iyengar. And of course, our session would be incomplete without acknowledging the person who held this conversation together in such a fitness, our moderator, Dr. Bhogle sir. Now I would request Dr. V. Anil Kumar, Head BRSD, CSR 4PI, to come on stage and present the memento to our moderator today, Bhogle sir. With this, we bring our panel discussion on AI for everyone, navigating technology, society, and ethics to a close. It has been truly a privilege to host such distinguished gathering of minds today. Once again, a big round of applause for all panelists, moderator, and everyone here. Thank you.
A very good morning to all. Ellarigu namaskara. We are not breaking for the tea. We are continuing the session. We request you all to please sit back. We will try to squeeze the session as early as possible. I request everyone to take back your seats, please, so that we can quickly finish the session and break for the lunch. A pleasant morning to every one of you present here. For the last 2 days, we have been listening to about the aeronautics engineering science, and allied technologies, followed by today's AI, ML, and deep science. Now, we have got to listen to about the Agri and Food Nexus 2026 with the theme, Architecting the Lab to Market Pipeline. Without much delay, without delaying further, may I now request Dr. Chindi Vasudevappa, Research Council Chairman of CSIR CFTRI, to moderate the session. I request you, sir, to please be on the stage. A hearty welcome to you, sir. The session 1 is all about promoting startups, the founder's playbook, a manual for startup success. Before we begin anything, I deem it as my honor to introduce the distinguished dignitary to the august audience. A brief introduction. Dr. Chindi Vasudevappa is an eminent fisheries scientist and institutional leader who currently serves as the chairman of the Research Council of CSIR CFTRI, Mysuru. He previously served as the Vice Chancellor of the National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management, NIFTEM, under the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, Government of India. With a career spanning nearly 4 decades, he is widely recognized for his systemic contributions to India's aquaculture, food processing, and agri-tech sectors. An expert in aquatic resource management, Dr. Vasudevappa also previously served as the Director of Central Institute of Fisheries Education, Mumbai. He has played a key role in drafting national policies on food processing and agricultural education, serving on numerous high-level government committees. An accomplished scholar, he has mentored hundreds of food entrepreneurs and received several national awards for his leadership in tech-driven rural development. With this brief introduction, I extend a wholehearted welcome to you, sir, for this first session, and I request you to take over this session with your opening lines. Please, sir.
I think very few people in the hall. Maybe we should have given a 5-minute break so that people could have come back. But anyway, all the same, good afternoon, each one of you. And very happy to welcome you to this very interesting session, especially on startups. The session really looks at the one thing which is very important is the founders playbook for promoting startups. Probably, I think this is one area where we need to come up with a manual for startup success. I think this is something which is very, very important. And we all really know, because now we are slowly changing from AI to food, more of food, I would say that. And some of course, even the ISRO and director also will be there with us. And we will be discussing about the space as well. But all the same, food is very important for all of us. We know that. Probably earlier gone are the days when we were thinking startups are 90% or 100% or the IT, backed up, activity. But today, startups are there in every field. Could be engineering, could be medicine, could be food, could be agriculture, could be anything which you mention. I think probably startups are becoming very, very important. And that is the reason when the startup culture started in India way back in 2010 or 15, only few startups. And I think it was less than, I would say, about 15 or 20,000 startups that time. Today, we have reached a stage where there are more than 2.3 or 2.4 lakh startups in the whole country. It is only because certain areas where we were not venturing startups, I would say that. Not that we were not venturing startups, the name was not given to that. So that way the food sector is something which is very big, very huge, because food is everybody's business. Naturally, there could be startups for everybody who wants to really mine a good food, a quality food, or a easy or a convenient food and things like that. So that is where the startup culture gained momentum across the whole country. And today we are, of course, Bangalore is the starter for startups because it was an IT-based city. And now startups are there everywhere. Bangalore, of course, is always leading. That apart, I think Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai, and maybe Ahmedabad, and all major cities, including Chandigarh. So including the northeastern part, I think a lot of startups are there everywhere. So we need to be really very happy, but at the same time, I would say that the startup culture has to be nurtured properly. That is the reason why in the beginning, more than 90% or 95% used to be failures. Maybe now the failure percentage has reduced, but still I would say it is more than 50%. So that means we need to really address the challenges in a much, and I would say scientific way or a proper way, which can really improve the success rate in startups. I know always startups are started more emotionally than scientifically. That should not be the approach. Yes, emotions are very, very important to conceive what you want to achieve really in this sphere. But at the same time, if it is properly backed up with science, scientific innovations, and scientific advancements, probably I think then definitely the scope for success is much higher. And I know startups and industries are like two sides of the same coin. After all, startups are or I would say not startups, I would say the academics, or I would say the organization, research organization and the industry are the two sides of the same coin. In the sense, whatever research or whatever innovation which we do could be a university, could be an educational institution, or could be a research organization and things like that, that is for the industry to take it forward, scale it up in a level where a common public can source the goods, the benefits of the goods. So that is what I think would be the startup today. In fact, I know academics always addresses the knowledge generation, which I think we are very clear about it. And maybe I think it focuses on, I would say, creating, I would say, knowledge and also exploring the impact of newer, I would say, innovations. This is what is very, very important. We need to understand that, of course, the industry will take it to the real world. In the sense, people who want to use it or people who want to produce it on scale probably need to be backed up by academics or by research organizations, and the industry should take it forward in the right way. So that's where I think we are really, addressing these issues. The theme of this whole organization is RISE. RISE is the research, could be by organizations, research organizations or academics, or could be by any university or institution or a college, or even a farmer, I would say that. So that means research is everybody's, the property, and they need to address it properly. And then, of course, I is for industry, we all know that. And S is for startups and the entrepreneurship, which all will culminate as entrepreneurs. So that's where I think we need to really look at in a big way. And as I said, any startup for that matter, so emotional involvement on one side is very, very important. But at the same time, we need to really understand the whole industry or the business part of it. Unless we understand the market demand and the market requirement and the quality of the product which you make and whether it is accepted by the market, I think we will not be able to really make a headway. That's what I would say is very, very important. And also the precision technologies. It is not that the institutions which develop the technologies and the technologies are straight away can be adopted. No. You need to understand the market requirements and the common man's requirements so that you really tailor make it or modify it to suit the market. That's what institutions give you, the perceptions of the technology, or I would say the precision of the technology, how it can be further improved or made better. So that has to be properly understood. I think if at all we want to really achieve success in the whole world. And I would say here today, CFTRI, that is Central Food Technological Research Institute, which is in Mysore, which is in our own state. Not everybody come to CFTRI. That's a wrong notion. Probably many people have a skeptical opinion that entering into CFTRI is very difficult because it's a central organization, central institution. It is not so. In fact, the director and I would say the extension division so actively working, anybody can approach. It is not a restricted area. Anybody can approach and also express themselves what is that they want to do, and probably the scientific community will definitely shape their ideas and make it into a business proposition. And probably I would even say, if you are a student who is coming out of an institution, you can be an intern there. So an internship becomes very, very important for acquiring skills. The skills, unless we are skilled, probably I think the success rate, as I said, will become very poor. And then probably I think we can even further improve upon getting into the incubation, or I would say the business incubation part, because there are labs, There are, and I would say the pilot plants and all facilities which are available in the institution could be used by everybody. Only thing, of course, in a time when actually they give the time for you. So that's where I think we can always be just there in the institute and acquire knowledge and to your emotions, so that the emotions and knowledge should match, and then probably you can come up with what is that you want to do, and also try to develop your own concepts, proof of idea. So proofing of idea becomes very, very important, so that you develop a concept by yourself in discussion with the scientific community and come up with a product which you feel that which has a great demand in future. Because I know there is a huge competition, please keep it in mind. The whole world is looking for something which is new and which always they think that is the first entry into the market. No, there could be many people like you who will also gain entry into the market with that thinking. So that means it should not be a repetition of what others are doing, but there should be some innovation or some innovative thinking which can really make your product, and the USP of your product should be very great. That's where I think finally it should really come up. And probably I think, so nowadays, I would say that the use of biosensors are becoming more and more important. Because I know biosensors can detect the quality of the food itself or the safety of the food itself. I think these are things which are very, very important. And maybe I think even the post-harvest requirements, especially when you harvest and how actually it should be cleaned, how it should be stored, whether decortication has to be done or the whole grain can be stored, and if so, how many days, and what are the technologies that are available, and how do we process it? That means the processing technologies need to be properly understood. And then, of course, the market linkages and the whole value chain. Unless we understand the value chain and its significance, probably we will not be very successful, because the business model, I would say always any company which is started, the business development managers will always be there. They will reach the people and they will get their feelings and the feedbacks and also improve your, I would say, the sort of status. So that's where I think, very, very important. Nowadays, CFTRI and many other, I would say, food institutes across the whole world have come up with more than maybe 700 or 800 technologies. Not all that we can use. Look to the resources what you have. Look to the regional, I would say, sort of availability of the resources, and probably plan so that the startup doesn't stop in the middle for want of the, I would say, the inputs. That should not happen. I think that is another big thing which we need to look at. And probably there are a lot of disruptive technologies also which have come in. And looking at it, probably I think we have what you call MATS. This is microwave-assisted thermal sterilization processing. These are things which have come. And in fact, the PADS, of course, is the pressure-assisted thermal processing and things like that. And could be, of course, now the development of a large-scale coolers, especially for use in the rural areas. So these becoming very, very important, because if you have to maintain quality at the post-harvest processing, I would say post-harvest storage itself, we need to come up with technologies which can really help us. So in fact, I would even say there are meat analogs which are coming up in a big way, because the non-vegetarianism is quite high, especially among the younger population. So how do we come up with the meat analogs which are more vegetarian-based, but can also serve the requirement, or I would say the desire for eating non-vegetarian. That's how it is. And nowadays, we have been hearing about the cultured meat and things like that. These are all the disruptive technologies which are not common. So how, if you want to get into it, probably I think this is an area where we can really look at very seriously, and many more technologies, I would say, which are very, very important in the present day circumstances. We do have with us the Licious, which is, I would say, which everybody is quite familiar with today. And you can sit anywhere and order your food, and that food will come to your doorstep. So that, I think, a beautiful, I would say, sort of a quality management system, which is really taken care very well by Licious, I would say that, because we deal with the perishables. Food is always, one thing is that unlike the AI or maybe some sort of a machinery and things like that, this is a perishable commodity. This assumes a different dimension and significance as well. So maybe the meat and fish is much more perishable than the meat. So how do we maintain the quality? How do we bring in real, I would say, requirements of the community? I think this is what I would say is very, very important. And of course, I know anything we do need to be very, very sustainable. Sustainability speaks of, we have been talking about the food systems today, food systems approach. So how do we bring in sustainability there? I think it could be an economic sustainability, it could be a social sustainability, and of course it could be the environmental sustainability as well. See, these things have to be properly understood if we are to survive for a long run. Always, I would even say here, any startup need to crawl in the beginning. Be slow and steady, and slowly then get up and walk. And that means you are now, I think, gaining momentum in your approach. And then slowly, probably, as you start walking, you can run. And then you can run faster. Probably when you are exhausted, that means your product has no relevance in the market. You come back to the research organization or to your mentors and then try to see that how we can really improve upon and probably address the real world issues. I think, and this is how I think the startup should be. And I would really, emphasize on each one of you who want to really gain or entry into the startup world. Probably, I think these are some things which you should always keep in mind so that you become successful and you will not lose your time and energy and also the money. I think with this initial remarks, I request coordinator to invite all the real, I would say, the people, the panelists who can really take care of the session, and also we will try to meet the challenges and also the aspirations of the people here so that we move forward in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for setting the tone for this session and also for your kind, inspiring words for the budding entrepreneurs. The session will be starting now. The first speaker of the session is Mr. Joseph Manavalan, who is popularly known as Joe Manavalan. May I now request you, sir, to please come to the dais. A hearty welcome to you, sir. A brief introduction. Joe Manavalan is a seasoned entrepreneur, organizational architect, certified coach, and therapist who bridges the gap between commercial business strategy and human-centric leadership. As the co-founder of Licious, Delightful Government Private Limited, he was instrumental in scaling the brand from an early-stage startup into India's premier fresh meat and seafood D2C unicorn. Joe's diverse career spans luxury hospitality with the Oberoi Group and over a decade as an entrepreneur operating his own premium baking manufacture facility, Painted Platters. At the launch of Licious, he initially served as the chief culinary architect, driving product innovation. Leveraging his background in executive coaching and psychotherapy, he transitioned to lead human resources, where he now directs organizational culture and talent strategy for a workforce of several thousand employees. His core philosophy emphasizes that fast-growing institutions transform not by merely expanding, but by deepening their cultural and human impact. With this brief introduction, I now request Mr. Joe Manavalan to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Good morning. I'm Joe Manavalan, one of the 3 co-founders of Licious. We are 11 years old. On July 1st, we'll become 11 years old. We are now 6,500 employees, cover 23 cities. I don't want to talk about the money bit, because always startups is associated with money. Nobody talks about the work behind and how hard we have to, pursue to get success. 2021, that was 5 years ago, we were valued at $1.6 billion. And that was after 6 years of work. One thing I really liked about what the doctor said was that in India, we should make sure that we do not copy what is happening in the West. We should not copy at all. So when we started Licious, there was nobody who was doing this. Nobody even wanted to do. So in the West, for example, if you go to eat a meal in the West, the center of your plate is meat or fish. On the side, you'll have your pasta and your vegetables. In India, it's the other way around. In the center of the plate, it is rice or roti, and on the side, you'll have your vegetables and your meat. So the size of your pie is very small, actually. So I think, and the West has already solved for it. They went frozen. In India, we don't like frozen. For us, frozen means something which is old. Nobody has any clue when this damn thing was made. And we have the live market. You go to the market to buy meat or fish. There was one guy we had interviewed. We asked him, how do you know whether the chicken is sick or not? He said, no, I will make sure that the chicken jumps up before I buy it. This is the sort of imaginary, you have a lot. The men are the one who go and buy meat or fish every day. It's not the women. The markets are so dirty. I think it's only men who have got the guts to go there and see all the blood and the gore, So somehow the men have twisted the story around that only they know about meat. They know whether the chicken is sick or not, whether the fish was caught yesterday in the sea. They have no clue when the trawler goes out into the sea, it might come back after a month. They have absolutely no clue. And then they look at the eyes and the gills, and they'll press the skin and they'll say, this fish is fresh. So we come into a market where the lady of the house is the one who's going to cook what this man has bought. And when it comes on the table, if the meat is good, everyone will praise the husband. Oh, today's meat was good. Or today's fish was fresh. Nobody talks about the one who cooks the food, So for us, it's a dilemma. Who is our target person, Is it the woman who's making the food, or is it the guy who's going to the market and thumping his chest, So these were the issues that we had in the beginning. So we knew that we're not going to do frozen for sure, because that would restrict our market. We can't do this, cutting the chicken and running to somebody's house to deliver. So there was a thought initially when we looked at the butchers, their hygiene levels, and this one was very difficult for us to work with. And we wanted to scale. We wanted to be across the country. We wanted to be in Tier 1, Tier 2, all the cities, So very difficult to control quality in there. So then we decided, let's do a chill, this one. So a little bit of my background. I'm feeling quite at home over here because my daddy was in CFTRI way back in 1952. Don't ask me, I have no clue what he was doing in CFTRI because at the end he landed up in NAL next door as an aeronautical scientist. So I'm not sure what he did. But I grew up in a community of science. And so my elder brother's a doctor. I've got uncles, daddy's brothers who are in medical books. And me, way back in 1985, I told my dad that I want to join hotels. So, a gun came out because they just couldn't figure out where I got this idea from. But I stuck to my guns. Whole family full of doctors and engineers and scientists. So in 88, I joined the Oberoi Group, and I worked with them for 13 years. And then the bug of doing business got into me, I think around 95, 96. So I went to Europe, did my master's in business. I came back. I was in a sabbatical with Oberoi when I went to study. Came back, I told Mr. Oberoi, no, I don't want to work anymore, and I started on my own. So in 2002, I started on a small little place in CMH Road, and then I grew that into a chain of stores. And then in 2015, that was 11 years ago, I met actually met Abe. Vivek I knew for a long time. Abe is a Kashmiri, eats meat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, sleeps meat, dreams meat. He lives around meat, okay? Vivek is a finance guy. He used to work with a VC called Helion. So three of us got together and we said, let's do this. Let's try this out. So July 1st of 2015, we actually started. And me, because of my science background and that food bit, I really went deep into things before we started. The most important thing was to gain trust from our consumers. So those days, if you go back 11 years, Amazon, you remember? In Amazon, you don't like the size of your shoe or there is a stain on your shirt, they immediately replace. They're building trust. So now what can you do? You can easily order with Amazon. No? You know that if something is wrong, you can give it back. So those are small policies that we also copied to gain trust. But more importantly, we wanted to start building backwards, they call backward integration. And institutions like CFTRI helped us a lot along the way, where we would go and ask them to study specific things, that we wanted to know. Science is very important, very, very important. Otherwise, you can't grow back. And please remember, meat and seafood is a totally disorganized sector. Even now, it's a disorganized sector. So it's very difficult for us to source. So we have to have our quality people at the ground. We are not, like for example, if you take red meat, you have to go to a mandi where an auction is taking place. A farmer will come with his herd. It might be 20 animals, might be 50 animals. We need 200 animals. So there's no question of price negotiation. Whatever is the market price in the auction, the guy will sell. Okay, and when we look at the herd, how do you know whether the herd is sick or half dead? No clue. So we have veterinarians there on the ground to check. So just imagine the guy over here who's selling the meat. He has not even seen the animal. And he's selling meat to you. So we have huge amount of challenges. Sometimes when it's raining, the farmers don't come. And then you have customers waiting. So you have to have multiple sources. Same thing with fish. Now we have a ban season going on in both the coasts. So where do you get your fish from, So then we go to smaller boats, you go to backwaters where there's no ban. Then you have to pick up the fish from there. So it's extremely complex, our sourcing this one. And on top of that, we built this thing about quality. We have to keep checking every damn step to make sure that the customer does not turn back, Then comes processing plants. So whatever we source has to come into processing plants. We don't slaughter or anything like that. That's done through government slaughtered, certified government slaughtering houses. When it comes to chicken, it goes into big processing plants, and then it comes to us. There again, we have a quality check. How it comes, what the size and everything. Then it comes to our factory, cut, packed, and then sent. I think most probably we might be having the largest cold chain supply chain in India. From the time we get the meat, the temperature is 0 to 4 till the customer's doorstep. So that's a huge cold chain that we have built. I don't think there is anybody else who like us who's got that. That is one of our strengths. Processing plants we have in Calcutta, Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore. Massive ones. The Bangalore one is nearly 2 lakh square foot. So huge amount of investments have gone into the back. So a lot of people seeing our success in 21, 22, they came up. A lot of competition came up. But they could see only our face, the app, the website, the nice photos. Some even copied that. But they couldn't see what was happening behind. What is happening behind is more important than all this makeup that we have done in the front. So all of them collapsed within 6 to 8 months, Right now we don't have any competition. We are just hoping there will be someone, because then the category grows. We also are on our toes. So we are waiting for people to come into the sector to help us also grow. Challenges-wise, when it comes to workforce, the butchers, nobody wants to marry a butcher. So very early on, we hired people. First of all, we changed their designation. We call them meat technicians. We taught them the basics of meat. Would take them on field visits so that their knowledge would, expand. Honestly, I don't think they are called butchers anymore, at least the guys who work with us. And you can see a lot of them when they get married, they come to us and they thank us. It is a life which has completely changed for them, So that is something we are very proud of when it comes. Similarly, even our farmers who we can see face to face, no, we have actually really helped them out. For example, if you take a shepherd who is literally like a nomad, you know, there is an ecosystem which is thousands of years, you know, it goes back. Where, for example, the farmer finishes his harvest, immediately the shepherd comes with his flock of goats. And then they pull out all the stubs. And then when they crap, that is like fertilizing the field. Then they keep going from field to field. 6 months later, after the next harvest, that same shepherd comes. So meanwhile, if it's a good harvest, the farmer would have invested in 1 or 2 goats with the shepherd. So 6 months later, he can decide whether to liquidate or not. So then the shepherd comes to the mandi to sell. So when we see a shepherd today, we don't see him for another 6 months. So there is no way we can even help him out, you know. They're like nomads. So those are things that are unique to India, you know, unlike if you go to Australia or you go to Europe. Huge farms, 10,000, 15,000 acres with lakhs of animals in them. The shepherd will be gathering his flock in the evening with a helicopter. Here, there is no way we can do it, you know. So, yeah, but we can be sure that those animals are not loaded with chemicals and hormones. They're just as natural as you can get. Same thing with our fish. What we catch from the sea is as natural as you can get. Okay, so, yep. Do I take questions now or after the panel? We'll do the panel first? Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts, your journey, and especially your success story, which will pave a long path for the budding entrepreneurs. Thank you very much. The another dignitary for this session we have is Dr. Tirtha Pratim Das. May I now request you, sir, to come on to the dais, please. A hearty welcome to you, sir, to this RISE Conclave in general and to this session in particular. A brief introduction about the speaker. Dr. Tirtha Pratim Das is an eminent space scientist and institutional leader currently serving as the Director of the Science Program Office at ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru. In this role, he plays a key role in shaping India's outspace research roadmaps and fostering national and international scientific collaborations. Dr. Das began his distinguished career with ISRO as a launch vehicle technologist at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center before pivoting to planetary exploration. He has been a core scientist contributing to India's premier space odysseys, including the Chandrayaan missions and the Mars Orbiter mission Mangalyaan. An alumnus of the University of Calcutta, he holds a PhD from Cochin University of Science and Technology and is an expert in planetary sciences and deep space exploration technologies. With this, may I now request you, sir, to address the gathering, please.
Good morning, and thank you very much for this opportunity, dear organizers. I'm very happy to see all of you here, and probably we will listen more at the time of the panel discussion with the other eminent panelists. I would like to recall a few moments when I joined the Indian Space Research Organization way back in 2004. So when I have joined the Space Research Organization, I was fortunate enough to have been posted in the Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station, TERLS. Many of you are aware that the Indian space program, the space-based exploration program started from the land of Tumba. So I was fortunate to start my journey from there. Now there one day, one interesting event happened. The interesting event was like this. So I had a fantastic boss who was my first mentor in ISRO. I can remember him. His name was B. Manoj Kumar. Unfortunately, he is not in his material body right now. So Manoj Kumar ji gave me a task one day. So he asked me, why don't you write an article on something on the biomimicking, how space technology is borrowing ideas from the biodiversity. So I wrote something. Then he was asking me, okay, good, you have written about birds and other aerial objects, the similarities. Do you know that there are certain insects whose body structure, do not satisfy the laws of aerodynamics, so they are not fit to fly? There are some insects that can fly, yet their body structure and dynamics are not aerodynamically suitable for flight. I said, I didn't know. Now the question is, how can they fly? Then I was trying to dig out the answers of the question why they cannot fly. And then after some time, he himself gave the answer. And the answer was, they can fly because they have not studied aerodynamics. Okay, that's why they can fly. So now, why have I told this story? I am telling this story because many a times, too much of a knowledge becomes a deterrent. Less knowledge also is a disabler, not an enabler. So there should be something optimized. And so those insects can fly because they have not studied aerodynamics. Now, when I'm talking about the startups, especially I was told that for this 15 minutes, I have to talk about the startups and from my perspective. So now when I say about this thing, I always tell about concept. The concept is like this. Let us assume we are drawing a graph. In the x-axis, you are plotting age of a person. And in the y-axis, you are plotting two quantities. First quantity you are plotting is courage. So what kind of a courage? Courage to take risk. So how does the risk-taking courage vary with time or age? So assume when typically in government sector, a person is entering the profession. You can assume typically at the age of 23, 24, 25, that is the age group. And the person superannuates, let us say at 60 years age. Now, if you plot the graph will be like this. Initially, it is very high. Courage is high. And then comes down. And when the courage is high, the reason is you don't know you cannot fly. You have not studied aerodynamics, so you can fly because you have courage. So it comes down like this. Now, another parameter is experience. Now, how does the experience curve vary? Experience is less when you start. And when over time, over age, you gain the experience that it becomes asymptotic, exponentially asymptotic. Now you're having two curves. The courage curve comes down, becomes asymptotic, and the experience curves goes up and becomes asymptotic. Now say to do something meaningful, something impactful, to create history, you need these two factors. You need experience and you need courage. Now if you define a parameter which is a product of these two, experience into courage, and plot it with time, age, what would happen? You will get a bell-shaped curve, right? You will get a bell-shaped curve, and the bell-shaped curve will have something called a full width at half the maximum. You have the full maximum, you have the half of the maximum. You see where is the width. Now, in my assessment, the width is in the range of age group, typically 30 to 45 years. So that means in 30 to 45 years, you are having a maximization of this product of courage and experience. And that is how the startups also are finding as a very ripe age group to enter into. Now, after having said this, maybe I have to stop in nearly 5 to 6 minutes. What is the difference between the startups and the ones, the organizations who have got a very big heritage and legacy? Take the example of ISRO, because I'm coming from ISRO, and same I'm sure will hold good for other legacy-bearing organizations in the government of India. The main difference is the government organizations like us, they believe on something called heritage. when something has been proven, something has flown multiple times with success, we call it that heritage has been established, it is a legacy, and don't deviate from that. Startups are playing the other ball game, they are taking risks, and they are trying to do something different. They may not care about the heritage, they are doing something out of the box. Now, obviously, for a given problem, there are two approaches, the legacy approach and the out-of-the-box approach. So what is the difference between these two? There will be some difference between these two. May it a problem in aerodynamics, may it a problem in food technology, may it a problem of some other domain. What has to be done is, the very big role of simulation comes here. In our aerodynamics field also, whatever success we have got, a lion's share of our success is attributed to our capability to do simulation of our mission, simulation and synthesis of our mission. So mission simulation and synthesis plays a very big role in our applications. But imagine in the case of a startup, this is even more important because they are trying to do something to pave an untrodden path, and it is always imperative to know what would happen by doing some simulations to identify what are the parameters, what are the relative sensitivity of these parameters. If something goes wrong, what would happen? Now, if there are certain modes of failure, how critical is a given mode of failure? If you have to make a list of the failure modes, how might the things go wrong? You might like to arrange it in a descending order. The top one will be the highest probability failure mode. And this is the one where the startups have to work in. And in this arena, the concept that the startups can definitely bring with the borrow from the legacy-bearing organizations is the quality management system. In the quality management system, how do we do the entire thing? We start with a quality assurance plan, and then we do the quality inspection. We have gated process of reviews, come back and improve the quality, and then from the quality, we are proceeding towards something called the reliability, and then we are ensuring that over time, this product will sustain. It will not have any intermediate failure. So now in this scenario, there are many more points also. But today what we are doing, let us see. If I have to speak very briefly about the space sector, representing the Department of Space, I can tell at this juncture there are few messages which may be very important to the startups who are present here. One is, in 2020 timeframe, there have been the space sector reform rolled out. Space policy came in 2023 around, and also the national education policy, which also was rolled out in 2020. And there are certain overlaps. If I have to tell, national education policy spoke about experiential learning. It also tells about the skill development, etc., etc. And when it comes to the space policy, or suppose space reforms, the Department of Space has got multiple verticals. The Indian Space Research Organization is concentrating more on the R&D activities, and then you're having InSpace, which is concentrating on the promotion, enabling, and authorization activities, and NCL, they are concentrating more on the commercialization activities. And in this framework, if you see, in ISRO, right out of the box, you're having certain mechanisms wherein the startups can find it very useful when the technology readiness level is very less. There are programs like Respond in ISRO. Many of you might know. From the Respond, you can start your activities, project activities, taking some problem statements from something called a basket, Respond basket. So that is one. And also throughout the country, there have been certain space technology cells or space technology incubation centers which have been institutionalized. So this is about ISRO. And then you are aware about InSpace, wherein there are certain schemes, technology for the technology funding to go from one TRL to the higher TRL levels, and different other schemes are available. So maybe at the time of panel discussion, we can have more elaboration on this. So at this juncture, I wish this event all success, and I'm eager to listen to my co-panelists here and to interact with all of you. Jai Hind, have a very good day.
Thank you very much, sir, for your detailed version of space research, the technology, and the startup ecosystem. The last session of the speaker is our own director, Dr. Giridhar Parvatam. I request now you, sir, to please occupy the dais. Our director does not need any introduction, but as customary, just 2 lines introduction. Dr. Giridhar Parvatam is an eminent food scientist and research leader, currently serving as the director of CSIR CFTRI Mysore, an expert in plant biotechnology and food technology. He is serving in the board of FSSAI, BIS, and also he is the fellow of FRSP and National Academy of Sciences. With this, I request you, sir, to take over the session.
Good afternoon to all of you. So already in my yesterday introductory speech, to some extent I have explained about the CSIR CFTRA activity, and most of the audience are also from CFTRA and few audience from other organizations. So just I would like to give a generalized glimpse on CSIR CFTRA's food processing contributions during its almost 76 years completed. So if you witness the overall journey of CFTRA in food processing sector and also its contribution to the nation, a decade-wise progress, if you have a glance, our perception changes always with the demands of the society initially, then requirements based on the industry needs, and also on par sometimes with the global demands, sometimes lagging behind at the time to meet the global demands because the domestic needs were very prevalent. So this is a generalized scenario what happened in its 7.5 decades journey. Nevertheless, in the beginning, it all depends upon the food security, because at the time, still when CFTRA established in 1950, that's 1960s, then Green Revolution actually happened. During that time, there was shortage and scarcity of food, and the initial journey started with that one. As DG CSIR mentioned, the greatest one of the achievement of CFTRA is the milk powder. That is the buffalo milk-based powder. Otherwise, at the time, only multinational companies were supplying only cow milk-based powder, and we used to import that one. And the spurious market was prevailing. Many health issues were noticed. So at the time, the scientists, with the minimal resources, they attempted that one, and they could able to crack that one. That means the high-fat buffalo milk was converted into the milk powder and given to the Gujarat-based Kaira organization, or NGO organization. Later, it became the Amul. Then onwards, it started with the rice. The shelf life of the harvested paddy in the silos gets damaged because of, and also becomes rancid without much processing. So raw rice, much long time you can't keep it. So the parboiling technology was developed by CFTRA. The complete processing line was developed, subsequently transferred to the entire world, wherever the parboiling technology is there. Even today, that is the CFTRA technology. Then onwards, again, as I mentioned, this just the Green Revolution started, and high breeding lines were cultivated. To some extent, the food security issue at the time, I mean, production-wise, yield-wise, ICR organizations were reaching, but still there was some shortage. Synthetic rice that was developed by CFTRA. You see, making the synthetic rice with the minimal designing, whatever available with the minimal extrusion technology is a fantastic achievement that laid actually foundation for the whatever fortification programs you are doing today. So it happened in 1970s. But again, for some time it was in market, but later withdrawn because again the rice, whatever post-harvest harvesting is so agricultural field was again coming into the market. Then onwards, preservation, post-harvest preservation of foods, because to reduce the post-harvest loss, that was one of the things, because in those days it is 40 to 50% post-harvest loss, especially with the perishables was there. But now, after 7.5 decades of independence, now it is around 10 to 15%. It's the greatest achievement, but still 10 to 15% loss is not an acceptable thing in the current development world stage. Then at the time, the desiccated foods, dehydrated processing technology, dehydration technologies, a number of things were there. So like that, many fruits and vegetable products were developed based on that one subsequently. Fruit juices, osmolytic products like pickles, even the pickles, for example. Domestically, we used to make it, and our local shops we used to get it in those days. But industrial success first time is the technology is transferred to the other Indian industries. Later they established their own ventures in India and started exporting to the US in 1975 onwards and between the 80s. That is Priya Foods. So like that, so lot many successful stories. Now it is a common practice for each and everyone. Even till today, many small venture companies and other people, they come to the CFTRA only for the pickles technology. That's still surprise. Then protein hydrolysates, like pea-based protein, soy protein-based hydrolysates. Those protein-based beverages were developed for the nutrition supplements to the children, school-going children in those days. That is another important successful story. Then single-cell proteins. Even till today, single proteins are having their own importance. And the spirulina technology, that is single-cell protein, 1970s, the Germans came here and established an autotrophic cell culture. Then later developed into the Biotechnology Center. And CFTRA is having its unique place in algal cell cultures in India. And our CFTRA spirulina cultivation response technology almost has been given to the entire world, including the Gulf countries. Then onwards, the algal-based pigments. Now, CFTRA is contributing a lot to the seaweed-based things, seaweed-based mission mode project also. That is another dimension. Then the packaged foods, ready to cook to ready to eat foods, whatever available in the market, the initial things happened again in the late 1970s and early 1980s, still continuing with the optimized, what is called packaging technologies also. And the shelf life extension, that is still everybody knocks door CFTRA for the extended shelf life. Initially, they will come and embrace our technology. They will start up their own ventures, target the Indian markets, and they will be successful. After getting good footprint, what they want is they want to go to the export thing. As I mentioned some time back, hand-holding, if you don't give, their initial success rate will be very less. That is where CFTRA contributes a lot. And when they want to go for the export-oriented market, then the extended shelf life is required. Now for that accelerated shelf life studies purpose, MPAC software CFTRA is developed. It's a unique thing. So that technology, many industries are coming and they are approaching through the consultancy and the sponsored projects. And fumigation technologies, again, back in the 1960s and 70s, when in the silos and food corporation gardens, so the lot much damage was there. So the fumigation technologies were optimized and the technology transferred, even dual glucose technology and hermetic storage technology in silos. So these things were again big successful stories of CFTR in the post-harvest preservation. So like that, if I want to say n number of things, A to Z, all the aspects of things were covered in these things. But one thing we need to think is quantum to quality. The entire our experience reflects the simple, in a simple way, if you want to say. Initially, the quantum of food for the public or consumers was the demand, was the requirement. Now, we have witnessed a complete, change in the requirements, processing, market demands, and other things. Now we need quality food in a proportion. That's why they say, if the quantum for food, if the proportion wise, that proportion why I am telling you is now everybody is considering as a food as a medicine. The proportion should be less and benefit should be more. That is the one important thing. Nevertheless, our entire portfolio based on 3Ds. One is we are the doers. That means we do the R&D, then deliverables and development of formulations, appropriate formulation based on the requirements. That is second one. Third thing is dissemination of the knowledge through the capacity building, training programs, technology transfers, and all these things. Again, if you have a glance at the overall scenario of the technology development that happened during the last 7 decades, 7.5 decades, if you see, 4H you can say. One is initially it was considered as a holistic food. You see, getting a bowl of food was a requirement. So think about, at the time there was no other thought process. Then healthy foods. The food should be nutritious, free from the microbes, contamination, with a sufficient shelf life, with the permitted preservatives. Then everybody is talking. So belly was full. Now everybody was talking about whether it is healthy or not. Then nutraceutical and functional food segments started in early 2000. So CFTR is having its own footprint on this nutraceutical market. And now all the three were filled. That is holistic, healthy, and healing. Then started talking about the geographical things, my food, my region, heritage foods. So now we are talking about the GI foods. So we are stepped into this aspect. And regional specific foods, how, we have to promote in that aspect also CFTR is doing. So the plate is not an important thing. The proportion with the personalized nutrition. So now we are on this track. So the personalized nutrition, every person will be required, the nutritional requirements are different. So just like some speakers, precision medicine, they were telling the A and other things. With bioinformatic tools, you can propose the personalized nutrition, but it's not targeted to all the population, only to certain segments. So the food science to the nutrition science, that was the initial requirement. Food security was the order of the day at the time. Then nutritional security was there. Then 1980s to 2000s, even now also, nutritional intervention to address the malnutrition or urbanized nutrition issues were there. In Orissa, Karnataka, Telangana, in a number of states, CFTR is actively participating and contributing in alleviating these problems through the nutritional intervention and with our own developed formulations. Now, again, the sustainability. Now we are again in the range of sustainability. The government is also mentioning the sustainability of all these things. So how to make the sustainability through this? And the waste to convert to the waste to the wealth. This is the area now, again, lot of requirement is there through Government of India and especially CSR mission mode projects are also, we are working a lot on this one. Because even till today, as per the database, 30 to 40% of the food processing industries, things are getting wasted. Especially the processed food itself is getting wasted. This is evident when you go to the high-end restaurants, high-end supermarkets, malls, everywhere. How to address that one? This is one important, because food is nature's gift to us. So that is one aspect. Similarly, converting the waste to the wealth, especially in the food processing waste only. I am talking about, not about the rest of the industrial waste. For 1 kilogram for 1 kilogram of the food processing waste is available now at the cost of rupees 1 to 4 rupees based on the quality of that material. And now the industries are focusing on converting that into the other purposes like biogas and other things. So these are all happenings going on in the food processing sector. And CFTRI is always ready and always march with the requirements of the global demands, but at the same time, national demands are the top priority and requirements, because the CSR mandate is like that. So rest of the things we will do in the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing the landscape of CFTRI technologies, services, and different activities. Now the floor is open for Q&A. I request the moderator, Dr. Vasudevappa, sir, to take over the session. Please, sir.
Thank you. I think we have reached the state where you could understand what each of the organizations or the institutions are doing. Now we have with us very learned and especially very learned panelists. Of course, Joe, who is there from Lycius, and we have Pratim, who is from ISRO, and also we have Dr. Giridhar, the director of the CFTRI, Mysore. Now, my first question would be to Joe. I know, I came to know you are a vegetarian, right? No. You are not no vegetarian, okay. Then, of course, see, to start with itself, you've gone into an area where the perishability is a major concern and issue. What was the driving force for you to get into this sort of a startup where you could work independently? Because this was the first thing which came in India, probably as the meat supplier, things like that, and the value chain has been so well organized and developed. So what was the driving force for you to get into this? Yeah, please.
Well, I think two things. One was, if you wanted to buy meat or fish, you got to go to the market in the morning. And I think we have changed as a country, we would like to buy meat or fish at any time of the day. So I think that was the first thing. It was not about convenience, but, we should be able to go and pick up meat or get it delivered to your house at any time of the day. So we were talking about shelf life, packaging, all that came into the picture, And I think we took all that into consideration while in the first few months on how to go about it. And we knew it's going to be expensive to do the cold chain, having huge cold rooms in different parts of the city. Right now we have 180 delivery centers across the country. All of them have cold chain. Then from our factories to the delivery center, there's going to be trucking again. Then the last mile, the amount of gel packs that we use and all that. So I think for me, personally, I think I'm a very creative guy. Whatever businesses I've done has been way ahead of its time. And I think Lycius also way ahead of its time. People sometimes they'll hold our packet and say, this is